Hi guys, welcome to another live. I'm just going to pin this comment right here and we'll get started. Hope you guys are having a really nice Sunday. Today is actually my very last day of maternity leave, so how fitting that I'm going to spend it with you guys and do an unboxing of the summer box. I'm feeling excited but also kind of sad that my maternity leave is over. It's been nice because I've been able to obviously keep the box stuff going during maternity leave, but I really do miss my patients in person, so I'll officially be back to seeing patients in the office starting tomorrow. So I feel like this is kind of our last little hurrah together before I head back to the real world. Hopefully you guys are all doing well and enjoying your summer so far with your boxes. I just checked the website and I didn't realize we're actually almost completely sold out of the summer box, which is crazy. So if you've grabbed one already, congrats. If you haven't, I wouldn't wait much longer because it looks like it's probably going to sell out within the next day or two. So today we're going to be unboxing the summer box. I'm going to walk you through all the products, answer any questions you have. Feel free to insert them in the chat. I have my phone set up a little differently today, so hopefully I can catch your questions as they're coming in. And then of course, if you missed the whole live, don't worry, we will post it to our page and also post it onto YouTube. So here it is in all its glory, our beautiful summer box. I love this box. I know I love every box, but like I do feel like I say that over and over that this was the best box, but I really feel like this was the best box so far. I guess I'm a little biased as a dermatologist because I love talking about sun protection and sunscreen, and I'm hoping that this box really helped you kind of explore a lot of different ways you can have sun protection during the summer and different types of styles and kind of figure out what you like and what you're into. You know, the goal of the summer box, some people say, oh, I got too much sunscreen. But my goal for you really is to give you lots of different types of sunscreen so you can figure out what works for you and that you can implement it on a daily basis and make it an easy part of your everyday life. So I don't know if all of you loved every single product. I personally do, but even if you didn't, if you found one or two products that you think you can keep as a staple in your sun protection routine, then we're winning here. As you know, every single box comes with a little pamphlet that kind of walks you through everything included, and then product descriptions, as well as retail values, discount codes, and my personal tips. This Science of Skincare card this time around was all about sun protection, obviously. So we went over sunscreen terms, chemical versus mineral sunscreen, how to apply, like how much you want to use. And then we also went through some myth busting regarding sunscreen, which we'll probably talk about today as we're doing this unboxing. All right, so I don't see any questions to start off the bat, so I'm going to get started on just picking a product and we'll go from there. I'm going to start with one of my favorites for this box. This is the Brush on Block Mineral Sunscreen. It is their powder sunscreen for reapplication. Let's chat about why this is such an awesome product. First of all, it's translucent powder, so it's almost like a mattifying powder. If you ever use powder in your makeup routine, kind of as your last step to mattify your routine, you can think of this as that plus a lot more. I do not use this as a primary mode of sun protection because we don't really know if we're getting enough sunscreen on with just a powder alone. What I would recommend, the way to use it, and this is how I personally use it, is use it for reapplication purposes. So I'll keep this in my car, on the go, in my Dermy Box Travel insulated skincare bag, or in my bag from work, or in my purse on the go when we're out and about. And I'll use this to reapply, especially on my face. So if you look at the directions, it'll tell you too, there's like an open and close section here. So when you take off the brush, you bring this bristle down and then you can open or close this to be able to dispense the powder. I usually flick it like this on my hand or flick it against the steering wheel and then I buff everything out onto my face. The best way in order to make sure you're getting a good amount to reapplying is to try to do that for about 60 seconds. So you don't want to just dust it on in 2 seconds and be done. You're probably not going to get enough sunscreen that way, but you want to buff for about 60 seconds across your whole face, and that should be pretty good coverage for reapplication. Obviously, especially better than doing nothing at all when you're out and about, or if you're worried about messing up your makeup, this is a great product for reapplying. If you remember, this brand also has really nice lip products too. We had their lip balm last year. That was super nice. So sun protection on the lips is very important, as we'll get into in just a second. But I would say this is a really good staple product for reapplication especially. So hopefully you guys like that. This was from Brush on Block. We do have a 20% off coupon if you want to shop their additional products on the website. Okay, next is another really fun product and can also be used for reapplication. This is Alta MD's UV Stick. This is SPF 50, and this is a stick form of sunscreen. Why do I like this? I will say I like to use this on the backs of my hands or my arms if they're exposed, but for the most part, I actually love stick sunscreens for my family. Kids are really annoying to get sunscreen on, as many of you probably already know, and they really don't like the greasy messiness of a lot of the lotions. So for me, when we're even like driving or headed to a place or park and I know I want to make sure I'm getting some good sunscreen on my kids, I will literally take this out of my bag, pass it to the back seat, and hand it to my kids to start putting on themselves because they actually like using it, and it's very nice for them to be able to control near their eye or face area without that greasy, sticky mess. My son too also, for some reason, always scrunches up his shoulders when I'm putting sunscreen on the back of his neck, and this I feel like makes it really easy to roll on the back. But with stick sunscreens, you want to make sure you do 4 passes back and forth over an area to make sure you get good coverage. So again, this is not something you just want to streak on and go. So you want to do 4 passes, 1, 2, 3, 4, back and forth. And then you want to take your hand and actually rub in the product to make sure that you don't have little streaks of missing sunscreen anywhere. And that way, hopefully you don't get any burns. This is also really great for reapplication on the go. And I really also like that it's water resistant. So if you're sweating or swimming, this should stay on for up to 80 minutes. That kind of leads me to step back and kind of talk to you guys a little bit more about some sunscreen terms, because I think this can be a really confusing topic. And what should a sunscreen have on it? What should you look for, etc. So when it comes to sunscreens, the biggest thing that we want to see is an SPF or sun protection factor of at least 30. Now, does a higher SPF mean better coverage? So we used to say no, but there are some newer studies in the past few years that tell us in certain circumstances, yes, it can be better to have a higher SPF count. So let me explain. SPF 30 versus 50, it's not like it's that much stronger or better at protection. An SPF of 50 blocks usually about 98% of UV rays. We can't ever get to 100% coverage. No sunscreen is perfect. That's why it's still possible to burn with sunscreen on, get a tan with sunscreen on, or if you're not reapplying adequately, the same can happen. So a few years back, there was a few studies, 2 in particular, that looked at people using sunscreen in climates that are maybe more intense sun exposure. So one was at the beach, and I believe one was skiing or snowboarding, with that reflection of that UV light. And what they found was that patients or study participants who were using an SPF that was higher, like closer to 100 versus 30 or 50, were actually getting better coverage. And that's because of user error. We as humans are imperfect, and we're not applying our sunscreen as well as we should be. So even though in the lab an SPF 50 has a 98% protection from UV rays, we're not necessarily applying it correctly. Maybe not as thick of a layer, or not as frequently, or reapplying. So in some situations, like when you're at the beach, it may be a better idea to go with a higher SPF so that you're ensuring good coverage if you are not necessarily applying it as you should be. When it comes to the face and neck, we usually say around 2 finger lengths is a good idea, like if you spread your sunscreen across your fingers. But for the entire body, when you're out at the beach or in a swimsuit, you want to be aiming towards more of like a shot glass amount, which is a lot of sunscreen to spread on, and most people don't wear it that way. So that's the first thing when it comes to sunscreen. The next thing is you want to look for UVA, UVB protection or broad spectrum on the label. So you can see on this one from EltaMD, it says UVA, UVB protection. And then this one from Glytone says broad spectrum. They both mean the same thing. That means it covers both against UVA and UVB rays. classically the teaching is that UVA rays are aging rays and UVB rays are burning rays, and they both can actually contribute to skin cancers. And so we want to make sure we have broad protection against those UV rays so that we're not just getting one or the other. And then the last thing is if you're swimming or sweating, doing some sort of physical activity or outdoors or going to be swimming, you do want to look for a sunscreen that has water resistance. There's no such thing as a waterproof sunscreen. So, the labeling on sunscreens is very regulated. This is not something that's just like a marketing gimmick. No, this is very regulated. And in order for them to list any sort of water resistance, they can either list 40 or 80 minutes. So this one from EltaMD lists 80 minutes. And you cannot list on a sunscreen that it's waterproof, because technically no sunscreen is perfect. Even if you get that water resistance, you still want to reapply after 80 minutes of swimming or sweating. So hopefully that answers a lot of your questions when it comes to sunscreens. Now, I want to clarify a few additional things before we move on to products. Why is it important to wear sunscreen daily? Number one, we always talk about skin cancer, and a lot of people don't necessarily feel that urgency when it comes to skin cancer, but the reality is 1 in 5 Americans are going to develop skin cancer. And more than that, it's very important for me as somebody with, a different ethnicity to let you know that it's not just a certain population of people that get skin cancers. And I think that's a really big misconception that skin of color patients will not end up with skin cancer. In fact, we have studies to show that in skin of color, skin cancer can actually be more deadly because it's usually caught later, or it's a more aggressive form of skin cancer. When we talk about skin cancers, we list 3 common types that we talk about: basal cell carcinoma, which is the most common type of skin cancer, squamous cell carcinoma, and melanoma, which is the scary one that a lot of us mention a lot when it comes to skin cancers. Melanoma is a very deadly form of skin cancer. All 3 of these, though, early detection is very important, and obviously prevention is key. We know that for all of them, risk factors to developing these skin cancers are actually going to be both intermittent UV exposure, so just here and there really intense UV exposure, and then UV exposure over your lifetime. So even if you, for example, are now realizing, oh man, I really need to get it together when it comes to my sun protection, it's not too late. You can do good by limiting that intense UV exposure and also limiting your UV exposure over time. Okay, I feel like I kind of went on a little rant when it comes to that. I'm just very passionate about it, and I do treat and diagnose skin cancers all day long in clinic. And oftentimes I just want to, tell patients that these types of things can be preventable to a certain extent, especially when it comes to reducing our risk factors. Of course, there's other things out of our control like family history and our genetics, but when it comes to risk factors for skin cancer, the biggest one is going to be that UV exposure over time. Okay, let's move on. Let me know if you have additional questions. We've covered the brush on block. We've covered the stick. Let's talk about the lips. So this product from Coola, this is their LipLux sunscreen. So it's also water resistant, and it has an SPF of 30. It's a clear lip balm, and I like it because it's super moisturizing too. So you can wear it on its own, which is what I do usually, but if I have a lipstick on, you can actually wear it right on top of your lipstick, and it's really nice too. Why do I think lip protection is important? 2 things. 1, if you don't care about skin cancer, which you should, but fine. If you don't care about skin cancer, one thing you should know is that your lips age like the rest of your face. So everyone's all into injections and doing things to make their lips look good. If you're not protecting your lips from the sun, guess what? There's collagen in your lips. There's hyaluronic acid. That is fading over time as we age, but also more if you're getting a lot of sun exposure. Smoker's lines around the lips, right? Think about all that stuff that looks and gives the look of aging to our lips. Sun protection on your lips is very important. But can skin cancers happen on the lips? Absolutely. So we have data to show that basal cell carcinoma most commonly occurs on the upper lip and also the cutaneous lip, so this portion, above the lip. And then squamous cell carcinoma commonly can occur on the lower lip. And I've seen both of those, and unfortunately, a lot of times especially when you have to remove these skin cancers, they don't necessarily heal the greatest and you're dealing with a lot of scarring. So keep that in mind when it comes to protecting yourself. We're all about, you know, Botox and fillers and doing all these things to make ourselves look good. But if you're not investing in sun protection, you're kind of throwing your money away. So keep that in mind. Okay, so that was the Coola lip balm. And then the other product that I wanted to go through is this mineral sunscreen from La Roche-Posay. Hopefully some of you guys have gotten to try this out. This is their tinted mineral Anthelios fluid sunscreen. And I don't know if you can hear it in the video, but there's like a little shaker thingy in there. It's liquidy. So don't just like open this and let it fling out everywhere. Be careful. You want to actually shake the bottle. And then when you open it to dispense it, I usually just go ahead and put 2 finger lengths on my hand. If you're feeling extra good, go for the 3. But I love this product because that tint gives a little bit of that no makeup look. And so if you just want something quick and on the go, which this was like my BFF all throughout maternity leave, I did not feel like putting on makeup or, you know, doing anything. I love, love, love that it's just a super lightweight sunscreen. It's matte, it dries on really nicely, but it gives just a little bit of color so that you don't feel so dull and you can, you know, hide some imperfections here and there without having to go for like a full makeup routine. So that's the La Roche-Posay Anthelios 50 face sunscreen. Okay, and then in terms of non-tinted sunscreen, right? So you've got powder, stick, lip, tinted sunscreen, non-tinted sunscreen. We included one from Glytone. So this is Glytone's mineral Hydra Lipid UV sunscreen. And by the way, in case you're confused, mineral, chemical, it does explain that in your little handout, but always look at the back. This is of course backwards. Active ingredients section. So when you look at a sunscreen, the active ingredients is what's going to tell you if it's mineral or chemical. So when I read this active ingredients, titanium dioxide and zinc oxide, these are both mineral or physical sunscreens. Chemical sunscreens will have those long chemically names, oxybenzone, avobenzone, all those that you hear about. What do I personally use? I use both. Did I use one over the other in pregnancy? I used both in pregnancy. I personally don't feel like there's enough data at this point for me to be avoiding chemical sunscreens by any means on my kids. And when I have patients with a lot more sensitive skin, I tend to recommend a mineral-based sunscreen because that seems to do better for most people. But what's the best sunscreen for you? The one that you're going to actually wear. This one is a non-tinted sunscreen. I chose it because it's a sunscreen and a moisturizer in one. So if you really just want to kind of simplify your routine or not have to worry about adding so many steps in, try to find a moisturizing sunscreen like this. These are nice because you can kind of combine a lot of steps in one. So in addition to this being a moisturizer and a sunscreen, it also has hyaluronic acid and squalene, which are going to moisturize the skin. So if you're kind of like get up and go person, you just want to wash your face and put one product on, this would be a great one to try because it's going to take out a lot of the extra steps involved. When it comes to steps in your skincare routine and sunscreen, hopefully you know by now that you do want to wear sunscreen as your last product of the day. So if you're putting on your skincare, you're cleansing, you're putting a serum, a moisturizer, your sunscreen should be the very last step in your skincare routine. And then you can put makeup on top. But don't wear sunscreen prior to, for example, putting on a serum or putting on your moisturizer. Have it be the very last step, either altogether or the very last step before you put your makeup on. There's a question here that you were asked about how to keep the brush clean when using it throughout the day. So Brush on Block actually has some great videos too, and they have a really nice video to show you how to clean your brush if you want to cleanse it safely without ruining the bristles. So I would check that out. And then I also think it's really nice that this product in specific also has that open and close for the cartridge. So you're not just like spilling powder everywhere. Unfortunately, I've had that happen with a lot of other brush on products. So you can kind of keep your sunscreen safe in this little cartridge. You can also purchase refills of the powder. The one that we included in the box was translucent, just so we'd make sure it was suitable for all skin tones. But they do actually have a pigmented one too. Somebody's asking, what about night float routine if we are working nights? If you are working nights, you don't necessarily need to wear your sunscreen if you're not going to be out and about during the day. But take that with a grain of salt, because there's also evidence to say that should we be wearing sunscreen even when we're exposed to light from our devices, like our phones or our laptops, if we sit in front of those a lot, that blue light from those devices, is that contributing in some way to pigmentation issues on our skin? So some patients who suffer from things like melasma or pigmentary disorders, that can be potentially a trigger for them. Now, is the light from your phone or your laptop going to be that detrimental for you? Probably not. And when it comes to a skin cancer risk, no, we don't have evidence to show that at all. But if you're a night float person, then you might want to pack something in your bag for when you're leaving the hospital on your commute home, so that you have sun protection on. Personally, what I do during the day, it's not like I'm like in between patients and I'm reapplying my sunscreen. I'll tell you, I go to work, I get to work, get in the office, see patients, and then when I'm on my way home or getting ready to commute home, I have some sort of reapplication product to dust onto my face or onto the backs of my hands for my commute home, because oftentimes that's when the sun is really hitting in my face, and otherwise I'm kind of in work. So I'm not really necessarily getting sun exposure. But if you want to be super technical, the windows, if you work near a window, or if your desk is set up, if you have an office job and your desk is right there at a window, technically you are getting UV exposure. UVA rays pass right through windows, so there isn't protection from that standpoint. You do want to be making sure to wear sunscreen. So lots of my patients will say, well, what if I'm just at home? Or like, what if I work from home? Well, if you work near a window or you're at home and you're constantly at a windowsill, it's a good idea to do it. And if anything, for me, sun protection and sunscreen on my face daily is just like a habit. So it's not something I think about anymore. It's just a part of my routine. And that way I know that it's just a built-in thing I always do. And even when I was on maternity leave, the one thing I love doing, just as like a me thing during the day, or just to make myself feel better, is to wash my face and put on some sunscreen, because oftentimes I was nursing near the window or sitting near the window getting some sunlight, and I think it's very, very, very important to build that habit and keep it long term. Hopefully that answers your question. I don't see any others right here just yet. Feel free to send some more if you have any. And then in terms of last product, best for last, right? This guy came with me up north last weekend, and I just love that it rolls up like this. This is our RollUp travel visor. It's UPF 50. I literally stuck it like this in my beach bag, and it was so nice for on the go. When I'm not, at the beach or whatever, I like to keep this in my car, because you just don't know when you're going to be in a pinch and you need some sun protection. What is UPF 50? Did you guys learn about that? It was in our little Science of Skincare handout. So UPF, SPF, they kind of sound the same, but UPF is ultraviolet protection factor, and it is a number that refers to the way a fabric is made or woven to protect against sunlight. So UPF 50 based fabrics block out 98% of those UV rays. And we're talking about both UVA and UVB rays in this circumstance. So when you're getting sun protection clothing, you may have seen me talk about that, looking for UPF 50 clothing or using a UPF 50 hat. That can be a really nice addition to your arsenal when it comes to sun protection. But we love this hat because, one, as somebody who wears a hijab, it's very hard to look chic in hats. It's just awkward, but I always want that sun protection. If you think about like a baseball cap, what is actually protected? You're wearing it on top of your head, and maybe you're getting a little shade right here, but the entire side of your face, your ears if they're exposed, the sides of your neck, all of that is still getting UV exposure. So this hat, I'm gonna put it on for you guys right here, is just a little chic number. Like, is she just not the cutest? And there's a little bow in the back, and I just think it's so fun. It's adjustable. It has a 57 centimeter rim, and you can fit it to any head size. So if you need to make it tighter or a lot looser, and then you can also wear it with like your hair up in a bun or in a ponytail without messing up your hair. So that was really fun for me to design. I think you guys know by now, I just love surprising you guys with this type of stuff. It just makes the box more fun and interesting. So hopefully you guys like that hat. In terms of what's coming next from Dermy Doc Box, that was everything in the box. Not even gonna attempt to put the hat back in here. But what's coming next from us? Number one, if you haven't grabbed a box, it's probably going to sell out. It looks like we're very low on stock. And when we bring these boxes, once they're gone, they're gone. We don't bring them back because that's the exciting part of having something seasonal. We get something new every few months. The fall box will be debuting in September, and that will be more for fall-based skincare routines. So you got a lot of time to use up your products until then. And then we'll also have our holiday box again back this year by December. So if you're wondering when your next box is, you got a while all the way until September until you get one from us. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that we, in terms of our sunscreen boxes, we love hearing feedback. This time around, if you're a subscriber, you're going to hopefully be getting a poll in your email to give us any feedback that you might have on any of the products, what you enjoyed, what you didn't, what you'd like to see more of. As you guys know, we always are trying to get your feedback because you've really helped shape our Dermy Doc Box community, and I can't believe how big we've gotten in the past few years just from your help alone. Truly, you have shaped us as a brand and as a business, and I'm so thankful for that support. So please continue to give me as much feedback as possible because it really helps us in the long run with curating these boxes to make sure you guys enjoy them. If you missed the live, don't worry. I'm going to post it right now to the page, and it'll be posted later in the day to our YouTube. Oh, I see a question. Do you have a women's version of the Dove wash in the men's box? The for men's box, that is a box that's still on our page. It's great for a guy in your life. We basically made it as a full AM and PM routine for men. Dove has a lot of really nice washes. The acne base wash, I mean, I personally, if that's the one you're referring to that's in the men's box, I use that on myself. Sometimes it's in our shower if I'm getting a blemish. But they don't necessarily have a women's only line. The rest of their line is, pretty much unisex. So I would look at the rest of their products if you're interested in that. Okay, hopefully that answers everybody else's questions. If you have a personal question about your subscription, you can always send us an email at info@dermydocbox.com and we'll get back to you. And I will see you guys at the next unboxing. Bye.